Hello, my name is Karen Gondoli. I'm the CEO here at LeoStream, and today I am excited to talk a little bit about and demonstrate the integration that we provide for two partners in particular. And these are two partners that are now technically one partner, because I'm going to talk today about how you can use LeoStream to manage environments that want to leverage both the HP ZCentral Remote Boost Display Protocol and Teradici PCoIP. So to start, let's talk a little bit about why would you want to do that and how does LeoStream help? There's really two sides of that conversation. One is, how do we help the IT staff? Well, one of the things is with LeoStream, you can manage hybrid hosting environments. And this is true no matter what display protocol you want to use. One of the keys with LeoStream is that we are vendor neutral when it comes to the hosting platform. So whether you have on-premises workstations, on-premises virtualization, whatever flavor of virtualization you happen to like to use, or if you're also up in a public or private cloud, maybe that's AWS, Azure, Google, could be something based on OpenStack. To LeoStream, it is almost irrelevant. We can integrate with just about anything out there. It's just a matter of if you do it through our agent or natively through the APIs. This is great for IT because it gives them one portal where they can go to manage everything. They can reboot different people's machines. They can provision off new resources in the cloud, all without having to go to the individual management portals for these different platforms. So that's one thing. Obviously, the next thing that we do is we simplify supporting hybrid display protocols. So it's kind of the other end of the connection. There's what the user's connecting to, and there's how they're being connected. That's the display protocol. Obviously here, I'm going to talk specifically about remote boost and PCoIP, but we do support in LeoStream a number of different protocols, both high performance and commodity. And when I say commodity, I'm talking about things like RDP. The next 2 points here, really, when you use LeoStream to manage hybrid environments, you can also enforce role-based administration. So I mentioned you don't want to have to go to these different portals to manage your AWS workstations versus your on-prem hardware. But it could be that you actually do have separate teams of people who are responsible for managing those different resources. And so you want to be able to restrict them to only managing those resources. You can do that in LeoStream, where you still have a single portal, one place everyone goes, but what they see is based on their role. So this gives you ways to lock down their access to only the different machines that they should actually be managing. That's true not just for the administrators, but also from the end users. You only want them to have access to the desktops that they have permission to access. The final point, though, really kind of brings everything together. When you use LeoStream to manage your remote desktop environment, you have one place where you control, monitor, and track everything. So you always have a high-level overview of everything that's going on in your system, and that's very important for monitoring users and what they're accessing for security reasons, also for auditing the level of access that people have in case you do need to allocate more resources to different projects. So that's kind of on the IT side of things. If you flip over and look at the end user side, well, obviously, end user experience is really the key to the success of anything that you're deploying out in your organization. And when you're using LeoStream, you give end users that single portal where they can get to everything as well. And what you'll see in the demo is when you use the LeoStream web client for the access, the web portal, it's customizable. So now you can brand the portal with your own corporate brand, and that's where users go. So they see something that's familiar to them, and then they can get access to all the different resources that they need, whether those resources are in the cloud or on-prem, and regardless of how they want to connect. Because again, the user doesn't care. They just know they want to log in and they want to get to their resource. Now, those users might be on-prem, they could be remote. Based on the protocol, there's different ways of connecting remote users. Again, the user doesn't want to know that. They don't need to know that. And through LeoStream, they don't have to know that. We will automatically connect them through the appropriate remote access gateway based on the display protocol that you're using. So in the case of remote boost, they're going to use LeoStream gateway. In the case of a PCoIP connection, they'll go through the Teradici security gateway. And I'll show you a little bit of that in the demo. The other thing that you can do to really kind of not necessarily optimize the end user experience, but secure it, is to enforce MFA, but only longer appropriate. So if a user is remote, they have to pass through multi-factor authentication for security. But to make their experience better, if they're on-prem, they can just log in using their username and password. LeoStream gives you ways to enforce different MFA requirements based on where the user is logging in from. So that's just kind of a high level using LeoStream in general. Now let's show it in action, specifically for a use case where you want to manage workstations you're connecting to using HP ZCentral Remote Boost, and then VMs that you're going to connect to. In my case, I'm also going to show you a Mac OS hardware that you're connecting to using the Teradici Cloud Access software in the PC over IP protocol. So to do that, let me share my screen. So what you're going to see here off the bat, I'm already logged into the LeoStream administrator portal, and I'm logged in as the main administrator. So here you see the new dashboard that we released in the 9.1 release that went out earlier this month. And so I can get a snapshot of the status of my machines, power status, and assignment status, and see a little bit of a kind of the trends in pool usage across the pools. So now to show you how this is set up here, first I'm going to look at authentication servers just to give you an idea of the different MFA options that we have. Obviously here on the authentication servers page, I have one Active Directory server. You'll see me use this to log in using username and password. I do have Okta set up here as a SAML-based IDP. This is great for users coming in and using the LeoStream web client. You can actually leverage your corporate standard identity provider and our SAML integration, so that in that case, the user would log into Okta, and then Okta, after it performed the authentication, would redirect the user into your LeoStream environment, and from there, they could launch their remote boost or PC over IP connections from the web client. I'm not going to actually show an Okta login for this particular demo, but we do have other videos. You can see how that works. I will show the username and password followed by MFA provided, in this case through, I think it's Duo I used, and our Radius integration. So similarly, if you have a corporate-based IDP that supports Radius, you can use your Active Directory server and then the IDP with Radius to do the second factor, and that's what I'll show you in this particular demo. Looking at centers here, the centers are the hosting platforms that you want to integrate with LeoStream. So I do have some virtual machines running Cloud Access software hosted in our VMware environment. So I created a VMware center. But then for the workstations, or for the Mac that I have the Cloud Access software agent installed on, for that I have this enrolled desktop center. Essentially any machine, whether it be a virtual machine or a physical machine or up in the cloud, regardless of what operating system it's running, Mac, Linux, Windows, you can install our LeoStream agent on it, and that will enroll the machine in the uncategorized desktop center. And now you can manage users' connections to that machine and do some power control like rebooting using the LeoStream agent. So any machine, if we don't have a native center for it, just pop our agent on it and you're good to go. We do have a number of other different center types that you can add if you are up in the cloud. Maybe you want to use the new Nutanix support that we just added in. You can create centers for anything and manage them all here side by side, as I mentioned. Now there is one other type of center here, the PC over IP devices center. This is a center that's essentially a bucket for the hardware-based PC over IP. So things like your Zero clients or your remote workstation cards, if you're using those as well. If you are a longtime user of the PC over IP protocol, you know that before there was Cloud Access software, there were remote workstation cards. These were actually physical cards that you would install into your machines. And then it was a chip-to-chip connection from the Zero client to the PC over IP remote workstation card. So those devices get inventoried in the PC over IP devices center here. And I'll show you a little bit more about how that works later. So there's my centers. Now I also have gateways in here. Here's where you register your LeoStream gateways. Again, the gateways are kind of protocol dependent. The LeoStream gateway supports a number of different protocols, including HP ZCentral Remote Boost. It also can support the PC over IP connections for those remote workstation cards that I mentioned. If you are using Teradici Cloud Access software, then you use the Teradici Security Gateway instead. And you don't need to register that gateway here. I'll show you where that's done somewhere else. But this is where you would put all your LeoStream gateways. So now if we look at the configuration section, I want to show you how my demo is set up here. I essentially created pools that were based on the different types of connections that I wanted users to perform. So here, my remote boost workstation pool, I looked at what protocols are installed on this machine. The LeoStream agent will actually return information about the installed protocols on the machine. So if the agent says, yes, this protocol is capable of launching RGS, which is what remote boost was previously called, then those machines will fall into this pool. I also have one similarly here for the cloud access software, but here I'm also basing it on the operating system, which is Mac OS. So this is why this is my CAS Mac OS pool. Now in this pool, I've done something else interesting, which is this. I've checked this box below the pool's definition area here. This says associate all user notifications with the assigned user. And why I did that is, you'll see in the demo, I'm going to log in as an end user. In my case, I'll use my credentials. But the Mac, I'm simulating the environment where the Mac is a shared machine that has a generic set of credentials on it. And we've seen this come up a lot, where they always log into the Mac with a service account of some sort, because that's what's running the applications they need access to. But you want to track who's using that Mac. So you want to assign it to the LeoStream user's username. But now the agent is going to see events for that service user on the operating system. So the broker needs to know to associate the events for that service user coming from the agent with the user who's logged into LeoStream. And that's done by checking this box right here. My other pools don't have that box checked because I'm going to log in using my same credentials into the remote machine. Now for kicks, I do have a pool here that I'm going to connect to just using RDP, because again, you can do all these protocols side by side. So I'll launch a commodity RDP connection. I'll actually use our gateway that I showed you installed on the gateways tab. I'll use our gateway to launch an HTML5 connection, and then we'll also launch a PC over IP and a remote boost connection. So the pools are just groupings, and I happen to have mine groups by the way I'm going to connect to them, but really you'll group your pools in whatever way works best for you, because it's the protocol plans that indicate which protocol am I actually going to use to connect to these machines. So the interesting protocol plans here, I have one that prioritizes remote boost, both for a LeoStream Connect login and for a web browser login. So that's what you see here. And the way the remote boost connection is launched really depends on the configuration files here. You have a number of RG receiver parameters that you can use here to configure the end user experience. And then you can also decide, well, should the user have the right to override this end user experience? And that's done using this immutable flag in here. Now, if you do want these connections to go through the gateway, you can select the LeoStream gateway here. So in my case, the way I have it set up, I'm assuming remote users are coming in using LeoStream Connect, so I have a gateway selected for that part of the protocol plan. But when I log in from a web browser, I'm actually just going to connect directly to the host, because that's for my on-prem users. If I look at the PC over IP protocol plan here, if I go down to the web browser section, here you see I've prioritized launching the PC over IP soft client. So essentially the connection broker uses a URI to launch the soft client using some of the information that's provided in the protocol plan here. So this is the host name of my Teradici security gateway, which these connections are going to go through. Just to show you the last protocol plan, this is my plan that's going to launch the HTML5 connection through our gateway. So all sorts of gateways going on there. So let's skip down right to policies now and show you how you pull all of this together. The policy defines the resources that the user is going to be offered when they log in and get assigned to this policy. So this pool, if you're familiar with the 9.0 version of the broker, this policy form is going to look different to you. Most of the changes are over here on the pool assignments tab. So whereas this used to be a long form of all your pools, now each pool is separated into a little mobile dialog here. So here I'm offering one machine from that Mac OS pool that I mentioned. And then down here, I assign the PC over IP protocol to that particular pool. So similarly here, I have my one machine offered from the remote boost workstation pool, which is then going to use the remote boost protocol. And then obviously I have my final pool here, which is going to offer one machine from the RDP pool, and the default protocol plan in my case happens to be set up to use our gateway. So the policy is going to assign these pools out to users. The policy itself gets assigned to users through the assignments table here. And as I mentioned, I'm going to log in using my AD credentials. So if I look here, the way I have mine very simply set up is to say, if any user logs in, first they need to pass through MFA. Looks like I chose Okta. And then they get a role in a policy. So the policy, that's the policy I showed you, it's going to offer me one desktop from those 3 different pools. The role here, it has some relevance for the end user. So in my case, I have a role that allows me to reboot certain machines, and you'll see those links appear on the web client. But it also gives me role-based access to this entire interface. So if I look at that desktop administrator role, here you can see in this section, I say indicate which parts of this interface should the user have permission to access. And the only thing, everything says no access until I come down to here. And then I've said, well, this person is managing 2 things. They're basically managing the PCoIP workstations and the PCoIP Cloud Access Software macOS machines. And I've given them full permission to those 2 pools. So I'll show you what that looks like from the administrator view from this user's perspective, and then everything else is off. All right, so now let's show that from an end user's perspective. So this is the same client. You notice there's URL. This is the login dialog, completely customized in my case using the talents of our graphic designer. You can make this look like however you want. Put your own logos, your own graphics, your own backgrounds. So I sign in. It's going to ask me for MFA. I'll go ahead and send a push to my watch here. Yes, I did just log in. So there's the 3 machines that I said I would be offered, one from each pool. So let's start just by showing you quickly. I can connect to this RDP machine. The policy is set to open up the connection in a new tab. That's handy when you're offered multiple machines, because now I can return to that first tab and actually launch additional connections as well. So with that going on, let's come over here and look at the system log page. The log page in the administrator view gives you all the running tally of everything that's going on in your system. So I can see me logging in, getting offered my machines, getting assigned to that machine there. And now if I look at the desktops list, I'll see that I'm now assigned to the RDP desktop in that machine. I can query the agent to see the status of that machine. And yep, there's my session. So leaving that there, let's connect, let's say, to this remote boost machine now. In this case, what it did is it downloaded an RG receiver file, which then launched a connection to this machine. Now we don't have the single sign-on for the Linux, but I'm going to log in as the exact same user here. And now the LeoStream agent on this machine is going to report those logins as well. So this will take 2 seconds to render in there in the background. If I come over here and refresh my log page, now I can see the remote boost connection being launched and the agent reporting that I've logged in there as well. Now over the desktops page, sure enough, now I'm assigned to these 2 machines. So no new login for the end user. They just launched one machine. I launched the second machine. Now I can actually come in here and launch my PCoIP client. Now in here, what I want to do actually is log in as that service account. So I'm going to change it to different credentials, and that's going to connect into Mac OS. Move that out of the way so I can get to my tab. So there I am connected in there. So now the interesting thing, if I look here on the log page, I requested the launch of the client, and then the broker knew I was connecting using a different username. The agent, you see, sent the login notification for a different user. But if I look on the desktops page, it's still me that's assigned to that machine. So now the admin knows who's using that machine, even though it's a generic account that's logging into it. So here from that one login, I launched all of these different connections This one went through the Teradici security gateway. The HTML5 used the LeoStream gateway. If I was remote coming into that remote boost, that would go through the LeoStream gateway. Again, from the end user's perspective, they don't know, they don't care. They just know they got to their machine. Now, if I come here and go ahead and log out, closes my connection. And now I can look at the logout page here. I get the notice, the LeoStream agent's warning the broker, user's logging out. The broker actually verifies that the logout is complete. And then at that notice, here's the user is logged out. And now it's releasing the machine from me because the broker knew, okay, that user account is associated with my LeoStream user. And so now if I look at the desktops page, that machine is released. It's ready for the next user to use. So that was a lot, and I know it went really quick, but if you want, you can try it for yourself. We do offer a free trial. You can just contact us at sales@leostream.com, and we're happy to set you up with the trial. Thanks.